Today I want to show you how I read business process models as a business analyst. For this, I've prepared a couple of diagrams for you, some which are quite easy, that's the starting level, then two which are more intermediate, and then I have a process model with me which is quite complex, and I want to show you how to read it effectively so you can understand any BPMN diagram in the future. Let's get started right away. The first one is a very easy one. So the first thing I do is, before I read any diagram, is first things first, is there a pool or are there lanes? So a pool you can see here, which is basically an organization or demonstrates a whole process. Then we have lanes. Lanes are roles. You can see here we have 3 lanes. So I know, okay, there are 3 actors or 3 systems in this process active. Then the next thing I want to see is, are there start or end events? A process could have multiple of them. For me, it's clear, okay, there's one start event here, and there are multiple end events right here on the right side. Also, it's a very good practice to, as you know, BPMN is read from left to right. So the most left event should be the thing which is starting the whole process, and the most right events should be the end events. All right, very simple here. As the process gets started, we don't know how it gets started. And also the description start event is not very good, but let's not focus on these kind of like words. So when the process starts, we have activity A, very simple. And then we have the first gateway. As you see, this is the default gateway. So what does this actually mean? The default gateway is the exact same thing as the either or gateway, which looks like this, like an X. So this means only one path here will be chosen. You can see if condition 1 is met, we will go to activity B, C, and then the whole thing is done. But if condition 1 is not met, but condition 2 is met, we will go the way down here. What I always recommend is, because let's, for example, this is a check. Let's say, is the variable A equal to 1? Then we go this way. If it's equal to 2, we go this way. But what about the rest? If it's 3, 4, or minus something. So if I use an either or, I would always try to be a yes-no gateway, or I try to use the else, right? So condition 1 or else. So you cover everything. All right. So in this case, if condition 2 or else is met, we have activity D. Here, basically, we go to the next gateway, which is a parallel gateway, because here this plus means parallel. And what this means is, now, from here, 2 tokens will be created. So this means the process will go this way and this way at the exact same time. So we have 2 tokens, activity E and activity F. Both will be conducted at the very same time. Now, here in this case, of course, activity E or F could be quicker done or slower. For example, activity F could be done while the process is still stuck in activity E. And as soon as activity E is done, then we arrive here. And only then the full process is done. This could be as designed, but if you want to make sure that before the whole process ends, like you wanna ensure that activity E and F has to be done at the same time, and then the process moves on, what you would need to do is you need another plus gateway. Let's do it like this, and both activities would need to go in it. And then we could go to an end event or whatever, because this parallel gateway here would ensure we are in sync again with both these paths. Okay, this was one easy one. Let's move on to the next, also fairly easy one. So the first thing, as you know, what I've mentioned is always look out for pools and lanes. So we can see here, there is a pool, customer, and here is one, the bank. So we have 2 organizations, 2 processes coexisting. And within the bank, we have sales, head of sales, and the risk manager as roles here in lanes. Okay, again, I'm looking for start and end events. You can see on the left side, there is a start event, and here we have one end event. The customer here is a black box. So this is basically the process of the bank, and we assume the customer to be a black box. We don't know what exactly the customer does, but we know that he is going to, or she is going to communicate with us and is receiving something. Okay, so how does the process start? Here in the sales role, we have a credit request. So probably, as it seems, the customer is submitting something to the bank, to the salesperson. So we have a request for a credit. The salesperson is going to assess this credit. And now here's the first gateway. So after assessing the credit request by the salesperson, 2 things are going to happen in parallel. Because again, there's a parallel gateway. So one token goes directly here, one goes directly here. So after assessing the credit risk is done, the risk manager is going to assess the risks and simultaneously, based on the decision, are standard modalities applicable, yes or no? Let's say it's yes. So this means assessing the risk down here and calculate the modalities is happening in parallel at the same time by different roles. All right, now these things are not in sync, so one could be faster than the other. Let's say assessing risk is much faster. And for the calculate modalities, we need some days. So the process is still in here. Here's one token waiting in the parallel gateway. And as soon we are done here, we draw up a contract. And as soon this is done, now both tokens are synced again. And only then we send out an offer with a contract to the customer. And we end the process right here, right? So it's very important to understand that even if the assessing risk part is super quick, we will take some time because of the draw up contract or calculating modalities or design special modalities based on what this condition here was. Okay, this is a fairly easy one too. Now let's jump to something more intermediate, and it could look like this. So for now, I'm not criticizing that there is no name for certain events. So let's skip this. Again, the same process, what are the lanes? Here you can see there are two different pools, actually, not lanes. These are pools. You can see these are pools because here is a gap in these two pools, basically. So we have two different processes, two different organizations. And between these organizations, we have message lines. This is these here, these dotted lines between message throwing events and receiving one. Okay, so let's start again. Where is the start of the process? Very simple. And where is the end? Technically, I can see multiple ends here. So let's go through it. The citizen is one role and the government is a different role. So what happens? The citizen is submitting an application. We don't know exactly how this is going to happen. This could be just going to the office of the government and handing over a piece of paper. It could be via an app. We don't know here. But what we know for sure is the citizen is submitting an application. Here's a throw message event with the application. So this is going to start over here. So basically, this event is starting this process down here. Okay, so that's the trigger. The government receives this application in whatever form, we don't know, and is going to review the application. So what is going to happen at the same time, maybe I was a bit too quick, when sending this application, the process down here gets started and the citizen is going to wait here in this event-based gateway. This means the citizen is waiting for two events to happen. One is this message here, and the other one is this message here. So if no message would ever come back, the citizen would wait forever based per this diagram. All right, let's go down here. Review application. So the government is reviewing it. And now is the question, is this application correct or not? If it is correct, then we move on to the activity granting license. And now what the diagram modeler did is he made two arrows going out of this activity, which he or she can do. I would generally not prefer doing it because very not too intuitively to understand. But what happens here is after granting the license successfully, two things happen, two tokens happen. So this process down here, one token will go to this end event there, and one token will go to this end event here. And while ending here, a message is sent up to the citizen. It's a bit, I wouldn't do it this way. I would do it a bit different, I guess. I would just mainly do one end event, maybe cancel this one and just have this here. And then it's fine, or using an activity send activity. But yeah, you can do it this way. I would just not go for it. Anyway, as soon as the granting license is done, a message is sent. Hence here, the citizen gets a notification. And as you remember here on the left side, we were in the event-based gateway and we were listening for one of the two events to happen. And this one here happened. All right, so the token from here goes to here. And actually then it's done. This is the end, so to speak, for this process. Okay, this is the process if everything was fine. This was the happy path, actually. So how would it look like if we did not have the happy path? Let me remove some things here quickly. It just takes a couple of seconds. All right, now let's go on with this. So when the application was not correct. So let me use a different color for this one. Let me use blue. So it was not correct. Hence, the request to complete application is sent over here. And basically here, two things happen now at the same time. The government body will be here in the event-based gateway waiting for an event to happen. And as this is a throwing message event, we're going to go up here. So what happens now? Two things are going to happen. First thing is, as the government is sending this message to the citizen, this event-based gateway token here will get down here. So the citizen receives this information that he has to correct something and asks himself or herself, will I complete this? Yes or no? Do I want to now complete the application or not? If we say no, we go to this terminate cancellation end event. What does this mean? The terminate cancel event is very special because this means as soon as we arrive here, we're going to kill all tokens in the process. So if you remember, we have a token down here on the government. This is going to get killed so that all instances are done. If you would have not the terminate end event, just a normal one, like up here, for example, this would mean that this token down here again would still be active forever and would never get canceled, you know? So this is kind of like a zombie process then. And that's why we need to terminate here. Okay, let me clean up the diagram again for a bit. All right, that looks better. Cool. So if you assume the citizen says, okay, yes, I'm going to complete it. So we go to the complete application activity, and then we go again to a throwing message, which is going down here. And as we see here, there is this token from the government. And as we receive this message, the token is going to get here. And then you can see again the path going there. You're going to review the application, and then it's the same process as before. So this is totally fine. There's one case missing now, which we have to cover. And it is, let me use different color again. Let me use green or something. As you remember, we were waiting for feedback from the citizen. And whatever the citizen is choosing, let's say the citizen needs a lot of time to actually think about this. As you can see here in the event-based gateway, there's this receiving message, which we have above. Or if we don't receive, here you can see time to complete application. So there is a deadline, right? So the government is just waiting, let's say, for example, 7 days. And if you do not receive this message event here within 7 days, if we do not, then we're going this route down here, which means we're going to reject it, and also a terminate event. We're going to terminate all tokens. So basically also the token from the citizen up here is going to get killed. So the whole instance is done as well. All right, this was an intermediate level. The reason for this is because we now have event-based gateways with multiple pools which interact with each other. And we also have a termination. Okay, let's jump to the next flow. This again, I would say is a kind of like intermediate. The first thing again, you know it by now, I guess. What is a pool? What are the lanes? We can see this. What is the start and the end? Start, we have now 2 starts here. So I would mark them both probably as equally powerful, and 3 ends on the right side. Okay, we don't know how these things get started. There's not much context, but let's for now just assume the upper one gets started with a message here. So we do user task 0, task 1, very simple. Now we have an XOR gateway, so only one of these paths are going to be chosen. If we take the first one, so we accept something, we have a script, a service task, so this means that the system is doing something, and a terminate end event. At this point, a terminate or the normal end event doesn't make a difference because as for now, as we can see, there's just one token. This could also indicate there's more to this process, right? If someone uses the terminate, probably there could be a different start, which means there are multiple tokens, but we will find out in a couple of seconds, I guess. All right, so if you assume, let me take a different color. We don't accept, we reject. So we are still at the top here. Then we have the service task, a user task. And now it gets very interesting because of this one here. This one means the following. So whenever the user is doing user task 2.2, you can see here is a timer event, which is intercepting. So kind of like there are two ways to model this. Here you can see a straight line, or you could see a dotted line, which is not straight. And as it here is a straight line time event, it means the following. Let's say we would add the connotation 10 minutes, okay? 10 minutes here. So this means when the user is doing user task 2.2 and the user takes 10 minutes, let's say after 10 minutes the user is not done, then we're going to go this route here and we're gonna like take this token from here and go up. So we stop the activity 2.2 actively as soon as 10 minutes are arriving. If not, if the user is done within 9 minutes, let's say, if this is the case, I'm going to take a different color again. We're gonna go straight here. So this path up here is not gonna get chosen as soon as we are quicker than 10 minutes. And yeah, in this case, here's a parallel gateway. This is a problem now. This parallel gateway is a problem. Why? This means here 2 paths going in, as you can see. And it's only going to proceed further if this parallel gateway receives 1 token from each path, right? And for now, we haven't gone the lower path here, so to speak. This means actively, I'll just take the, like this. So we are stuck. Right now, we are stuck here with 1 token. So we could say we are stuck here. And now maybe the different thing comes into play here down. Right, the second start of the process could be here. Very simple, do a manual task, a user task. Then you have a receiving catch event, but we don't know from where we receive it and what we do with it actually. Then we throw a message. There's also no detail. And then we go here. And only then, if both tokens are now here, then we can end this process and also send something out to someone. So that's the tricky thing here, right? Like, if the lower process doesn't get started and you get down this path here, you're gonna wait until both is happening. That's maybe the key thing down here. All right, and maybe this might now make sense why we do have a terminate event. Let me clarify why it now makes sense that we have one. I will quickly erase everything and make it clean for you. Okay, so if you assume for the moment being, the lower process gets started first. We go here, 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 as you've seen, and we're waiting here for a token. Let's say now here up on this top, the process is also starting. We go here, and we assume for now, we accept this. As you can see, we're gonna end up here. And if this would be a normal end event, the token down here would be still living. So the whole process instance will be a zombie forever. That's why we need to terminate up above, because then we're gonna kill this token too. All right, I hope this makes sense for you guys. This was a more intermediate one because we also have this symbol right here, which is now maybe new to you, but it's a great concept, right? Just to give you a reference, if this line was not solid, but it was like this a bit, you know, if it's like a dotted line, this would mean as soon as the 10 minutes arrive, we're gonna do this path, but the path down here is not getting killed or transferred, so both can happen at the same time, right? It's not interrupting, so to speak. Okay, so now let's jump to the last one. This is a complex one I want to show you. I hope you don't mind the quality of this. Again, the first things first, what are the lanes and pools I have? I can see here are a couple of lanes, couple of processes or organizations, 4 in total, 4 different pools. We have the purchaser, service provider A, provider B, and provider C. So where's the start? As you can see, right now it's a bit more hard to understand what is the real start. With a bit of experience, you can see that this one is the real one. But if I would model this, I would model it like this, that on the left side, this is the most left. And these start events, I would move more in this direction so I can see from left to right, which is the first. This is how I would do it. But anyway, so let's have a look what's happening here. So the process starts. We don't know how it starts, but the first activity is to request the quotes. So the purchaser is requesting quotes, maybe about some products or services from the provider. So you can see here is a message sent out. There is a message sent out. And also here is a message sent out. Oops. So actually this one is starting the 3 processes around. This also makes clear that this one has to be the start event. All right, so the quotes are sent out. What happens is our purchaser here is going to go into this multiple parallel gateway, and 1 token will be sent out here, 1 here, and 1 here. What this means is we are now waiting for these events to come back because these are catching message events. And if you look at any provider, let's look at provider A up on top, what it does is actually this process, they receive our request, they send the quote, and then they're done. That's it. So and when they send the quote, we receive it here. Now every provider could be more quick or more slow, it doesn't matter, but they're gonna send something. And as you can see here, we have the complex gateway. What is a complex gateway? A complex gateway is whenever you cannot use a parallel either or gateway, you're gonna use the event-based, you're gonna use the complex gateway, because here you can define the rule very individually. Maybe you cannot read it, but here it says 2 of the 3 quotes are received. So this means actually we sent 3 requests, you remember, provider A, B, and C, and we're gonna wait for 2 of them to come back. So let's assume provider B was quick, and provider A was quick, but provider C was sleeping. So we got 2 of the 3 and we move on. So we move on with this activity here, assess the quotes. So it doesn't matter if C is sending his or her quote anytime soon, we moved already on, we are out of it. So it's like lost. So we assess the quotes of A and B, and then we look, are we sufficient? Is this sufficient? Yes or no? If no, we're gonna go back. That's the path up here. We're gonna go back, and then we do the same thing. Wait until we get 2 of 3, and we're gonna request them. But if it is fine, we're gonna end up here, and this is again this is a termination. We're gonna kill everything, every instance, because we're done. We have a rate. We don't need anything to come back with us, so we terminate. So this is now the more complex one. Of course, there are even more complex diagrams, but this is it for today.